Some places don't just collect dust, they collect memories, echoes, presences, and every now and then, they decide to let you know they're still there. Welcome to Paranormal Nightshift, where your stories of the strange, the chilling, and the unexplained take center stage. I'm your host, Andy, and if you're hearing my voice, you've just clocked in for another shift on the edge of the unknown. Before we dive into tonight's story, swing by paranormalnightshift.com and grab your free copy of The Birth of Dimensional Desperado. It's the first ebook in our paranormal time travel series starring Buck Shadow Sheriff Freeman, a man who's always one ghost step ahead of danger. Now let's get to it. Tonight's story comes from one of our listeners, Lorri, and it's set in a place most of us wouldn't think twice about, a warehouse. But what happens when the building itself seems to remember a tragedy? What happens when something or someone keeps showing up long after the shift is over? You might want to leave a light on for this one. I used to work in a warehouse, one of those big, echoing, concrete places with fluorescent lights that always buzz just a little too loud, and aisles that could swallow you whole if you weren't paying attention. It was the kind of place that felt like it had its own heartbeat. Slow and heavy, pulsing through the steel beams and loading docks. You'll learn to tune out the creaks and groans of the building pretty quickly. Or at least you told yourself to. I was assigned to a specific section near the back, where we stored overflow inventory. It was quieter than the main floor, a little darker too. Most people avoided it unless they had to pull a product. I didn't mind being alone back there. In fact, I usually preferred it. Just me, task list, and the hum of the conveyor belts in the distance. That's when it started happening. At first, it was just a flicker in my peripheral vision, movement that I couldn't quite explain. I'd be scanning barcodes or stacking pallets, and out of the corner of my eye, I'd catch someone walking by. Just a figure, never close enough to make out details. But I turned my head, expecting to see a coworker passing through. And there'd be no one there, not a soul. The first few times I chalked it up to overwork, long shifts, bad lighting, caffeine withdrawal, you name it, I blamed it. I even laughed about it a couple times, telling myself I was just seeing things, but it kept happening. Always the same, just a glimpse of someone moving past the end of an aisle or around a corner that led to a dead end. I started paying attention to the times. It wasn't random. It happened in the early afternoon, usually between 1 o'clock and 2:30. Same path, same speed, like they were doing rounds, like it was part of their shift. One day, I decided I'd catch whoever it was. Maybe it was a prank. Maybe someone was just trying to mess with me. So I waited, positioned myself near the edge of an aisle where I always saw movement. I didn't work. I didn't scan anything. I just stood there, pretending to organize a box, watching. Sure enough, around 1:40 p.m., I saw the figure again. Tall, human-shaped, walking with purpose. I stepped out immediately, ready to say something. But there was no one there. No footsteps, no shuffle of boots, just the hollow sound of my own breathing. I wasn't scared yet. Just confused. Curious even. I told a coworker about it later that day, one of the older guys who'd been with the company for nearly 20 years. I expected him to laugh, maybe tease me a little. Instead, he just looked at me for a long moment, like he was deciding how much to say. Finally, he leaned in a little and said, "Have you ever heard about the guy who died back there?" I felt a chill crawl up my spine. "What guy?" "Back in the early 2000s, he said, lowering his voice. "Forklift accident. Real bad. It happened in that back section, where they used to do sorting before the remodel. He was crushed. Died before emergency services even got here. They say he was working overtime, alone." I stared at him, half expecting a punchline that never came. "And you think he's still around?" He gave a slow shrug. "All I'm saying is, you're not the first person to see someone who wasn't there." After that, I couldn't unsee it. The next time it happened, I felt it more than I saw it. an almost electric presence, a pressure in the air like someone was right behind me. I spun around, heart pounding, but there was only the empty aisle. Still, I never felt threatened, never felt like I was in danger. Whoever or whatever it was didn't seem angry, just there, moving, working. After a while, we all just accepted it. We even started calling him the forever employee. Joked that he still had a quota to meet, left an extra spot on the clipboard during end of shift head counts. But deep down, none of us thought it was funny, not really. Because in that warehouse, tucked in the back, under the dimmed lights and dusty rafters, something walked the floor every afternoon. A man who punched in one day and never punched out. And he's still there, watching, walking, working, forever. And that brings us to the end of tonight's story. Lorri, thank you, not just for sharing what you went through, but for reminding us that sometimes the past doesn't stay put, especially when it still has work to do. If you felt a chill run down your spine tonight, you're not alone. And if you want even more stories like this, consider supporting the show. Join us on Patreon for ad-free episodes, early access, and exclusive perks, including behind-the-scenes content and bonus chapters from the Dimensional Desperado ebook series. Not ready to make the leap? No worries. You can still support us by subscribing to the podcast on Spotify or YouTube. Leave a comment, share the episode, and let us know what you think. Every bit of feedback helps keep the night shift alive. And hey, don't forget your free ebook. Visit paranormalnightshift.com and download The Birth of Dimensional Desperado. It's the perfect next step if you're itching for more paranormal adventures with time-bending stakes. Most importantly, if you've got a story of your own, something real, something that stayed with you, head over to the site and send it our way. We're always listening. Until next time, keep your eyes open. Trust that uneasy feeling. And remember, not every shadow fades when the lights come on. You're on the Paranormal Night Shift. Stay curious, stay brave, and above all, stay aware.